Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, wherever you are on this planet. England could be fined for V-shaped response to New Zealand's haka after players revealed that coach Eddie Jones was behind the tactic and admitted they knew it would rile the All Blacks. And so what? Who gives the shit? I mean, look. The haka is a great spectacle. It's fantastic, and it's nice to see. It's part of rugby. But the purpose of the haka is to intimidate. Certainly on the field, it's a war cry to battle. It's to intimidate your opponent. Now there are different aspects to it at weddings and funerals and so etc. But the one that they perform on the rugby pitch is to intimidate your opponent. So why is the RFU going to poke its nose into this situation? Look, if the guys had got within half a metre or less of these guys, or to get into their faces, like I think England have done it before when it's been performed, and if that is a sign of respect to say we are not going to be intimidated by you, by this, it's not going to intimidate us. So why is it okay for them, the All Blacks, to do this haka in people's faces, in players' faces? Yet all England did was just to do a shape of a V. Was it inverted V or concaved V in response to their V-shaped V? I think my personal view is, I think if, the All Blacks are going to give it out, they have to be able to take it. As simple as that. As long as you're not disrespectful, England were respectful. The fact that teams have to stand there and watch, literally, I see it as being insulted by them and say, look, there was a time when they used to do the cutthroat. I think they've obviously been stopped to do that, because this one, they didn't do that, but they were doing that cutthroat, and which was outrageous, And I responded to that before. I said, "You can't be doing that. It's outrageous." So, there was a time many years ago, player called Campese for Australia. I can't remember where it was they were doing the haka, but whether it was here in the UK or in Australia, but. When they were performing it, he wasn't standing in line with his teammates. He was doing practice drop goals or kicks to the post. He refused to partake in it. He refused to partake in it. And I remember when I was younger, I thought, oh, it's outrageous. How could you got no? As I got older, I understood the dynamics between people. It's like, no. You shouldn't. You shouldn't have to stand there, because you are being basically insulted. We're going to cut your throat. This is what we're going to do to you, and all sorts of business. And so they could be fined. Look at this here. France were fined £2.5 grand for walking up to the haka in 2011. Why? Why were they fined? The RFU are still a bunch of old farts. What's his name? The guy who coined it, and he was absolutely correct, Will Carlin. That was the massive catalyst that caused the English rugby to change, to become professional. His words were so powerful that it shook the foundations of English rugby to its core, and it did it obviously to great effect, because in 2003, bang, they won the World Cup. They wouldn't have won it if they hadn't gone professional. They just would not have won it. So we've now got people bitching that, oh, they're disrespectful. Why should you stand there while someone has got a knife and is stabbing you in the chest or in your stomach, and you're supposed to not defend yourself, just stand there, well, you know, it is what it is. So when someone invades your home and attacks you, what are you supposed to do? Just stand there and not... in fact, the law do expect, if you attack and you kill or maim the bastard who's come into your home, you will go to prison. Or they will look to fine you, or they'll look to do something, punish you. This also reminds me of the Covington boy from the Covington boy, who in America, who did basically the same thing, with a Native American walking up to him with his drum, and he stood there with a smirk on his face. And I'm sure that what's his name, Owen Farrell, knows about that, and he's done the same. And this young lad was literally roasted to an inch of his life on social media. Death threats were applied to him from the mentally ill that are out there, you know, and all because he stood and looked, and there was a smile on his face of defiance. Owen Farrell's showing exactly the same thing. He's showing a smile of defiance. And look what happened. It worked. It rattled them so badly. You know, they got a bit of their own medicine, and they didn't like it. So now they're looking to find these fine young lads. Like the French were fined. I mean, to them, £2.5 is a little bit small change, but it's not the point. Obviously, it's the principle of it. They shouldn't get fined at all. And if the All Blacks had any decency as a team, they should stand up and say no, you know. But they didn't. They allowed the French to get fined, and they're going to allow England to get fined as well. England should stand up and say stuff it. But because it's small peanuts to them, they're not going to do anything. I think the RFU should stop this nonsense and should, you know, if teams respond to them, that should be part of the same thing as well. If the haka can be part of New Zealand is set up. If other teams decide to do a similar thing, like they've done with the V or whatever it is, or they become inventive as a response to the haka, as long as it's this respect, it's about two-way respect. The way I see it, it's just one way. That's it. And it's wrong. And, you know, it gives the All Blacks a G up, a pep when they get on that pitch. And what are England supposed to do? Stand there and then just take it? No, it's wrong. It's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. But World Rugby could fine England for their actions ahead of the semi-finals. You know, I mean, it's just ridiculous, honestly. It's ridiculous. And yeah, so what? Eddie Jones' job is to do that. He's supposed to get into under the skin of his opponent, and he's doing that fantastically. He's done that fantastically. Why is it that, you know, the All Blacks should get away with this kind of nonsense? Because they're the All Blacks, you know. England will discover on Monday whether they'll face a fine for their V-shaped response to New Zealand's haka ahead of Saturday's Rugby Cup World Cup semi-final. Why? Why couldn't they wait until after the World Cup? Just finish it. Just be done with it and wait until after the World Cup. Just say, look, we're going to put it to one side. Just, you know, we're not going to make a decision. I mean, some people would say, well, you know, it's done, it's out of the way. Probably, yeah, it might be the right thing. But personally, I think they just say, look, we're not going to respond to it. And, you know, we're not going to fine the lads. They're entitled to respond to the haka. They're entitled to respond to it. The England players found out from Owen Farrell symbolically outflank the All Blacks' traditional Maori challenge, with several players spilling over into the New Zealand half of the field. Okay. France were fined $2,500 for breaching a cultural ritual protocol. Bollocks. Bollocks. Cultural ritual protocol. It just makes mockery of the whole thing. The French responded, and everybody, I remember, I said, yes, well done. You've got a response, an imaginative response, an arrow pointing at you. That's our response to you. But instead, World Rugby are trying to squash that, but to allow the All Blacks to continue with their shenanigans. No. After they linked arms and marched towards the haka ahead of the 2011 Cup. You know, this is the constant, you know, we don't need this constant silly little things that come up all the time. There's always something got to come up, some sort of nonsense that people will have to always get upset about. Well, I'll tell you one thing. I watched this and I'm happy that they didn't do that cutthroat nonsense. So they've obviously been stopped from doing that, as quite rightly so. Let's have a look. And given this precedent, it is expected that England will be sanctioned in a similar way by World Rugby, who are a bunch of wanks. England went on to beat them, yeah, blah, blah, blah. The players revealed afterwards that the V-shape was the idea of their coach, Eddie Jones, with Vunipola admitting afterwards that we knew it would rile them up. Captain Farrell was pictured smirking while the dance was performed, with New Zealand scrum half Aaron Smith saying afterwards that Farrell winked at him. So there, you see, it just shows you it got under their skin, it pissed them off. But that's, you know, that's what sport is about. You know, it's, you know, you don't like it when people come back at you, but you can dish it out, but you can't take it, as they say. Smith said, we didn't really do it to scare them. We do it for us, to represent our people, to represent New Zealand. That's great, that's fantastic. It's not, and they know it's not about scaring them. But if I was playing against a team that was doing that, I would be a bit annoyed. It would get under my skin that we've got nothing to respond to. But if you're imaginative and you have something to respond for, that is respectful at the same time. Okay, why should anybody get upset about that? The All Blacks have been doing it for 110 years, exactly. And now when people start responding to it, okay, bringing out their own ideas to say, we see the challenge, we give you back our challenge. I was looking at the guy straight opposite me, and that was Owen Farrell, and he was giving me a few winks. Yeah, so? And here you go, several players spilled over into the New Zealand half and were told to step back. Why? They were going to be playing on that pitch. You know, and this is, look, this is the danger, you know, of idiots, wankers that are in positions of World Rugby. That's the reason why Will Carlin was so frustrated. You had to call those wankers that are there a bunch of old farts, okay? And they're still operating with a bunch of old farts who seem to still, you know, don't think out of the box, you know. We don't want guys fighting before the haka, but we want people to be imaginative. And look, Look at that. You've got this idiot ref. I think, you know, he's not my favourite ref, to be honest with you. Wanting to push them back, so you've got to step back. Why? You've got to be going forward in a minute anyway, and tell to step back. Here you go. This is France. Forming, they were fined £2.5 grand for forming a V shape and advancing on the haka. You know, absolutely ridiculous. And so they linked arms and walked up within meters. Yeah. So, you know, they're showing their defiance. They're standing up and saying, you know, this is, we are individuals, but we are collectively a team, and this is our response to you. It's just unbelievable. Here we go. Protocol states that players must not cross the halfway line while the haka is being performed. But 6 players, Joe Marler, not surprised, he's always in the thick of it. Billy Vanapola, Mark Wilson, Elliot Daly, Luke Cowan Dickey, and Ben Youngs appeared to stand in the All Blacks halves. Match officials, including ref Nigel Owens, tried in vain to encourage them back into their own half, and this will also be taken into account by World Rugby in their deliberations. Joe Marler said he got confused. Yeah. Vilipola said he thought he was supposed to go all the way around it and go to their 10. But because of that, he's the one who has to pay the fine. He dishes it out a lot, so the boys would be more than happy if he has to pay it. Oh, good. How England confronted the haka in their own words. We knew we had to be within the radius. We wanted to not just stand there and let them come at us. We wanted to keep a respectful distance, but we didn't want to just stand in a flat line. Exactly. In other words, you know, the rugby RFU is playing into this constant, you know, giving a constant hand to the All Blacks all the time. And that's wrong. All the teams should be treated equally, but it seems to me that the All Blacks seem to always get that little bit of a hand that they shouldn't be. We need to see them dethroned. We need to see them back down in the, you know, in the top 10, and other teams emerge through. We need to see more teams, you know, like Japan maybe next time getting into semi-finals and so on and so on. We need to see other teams other than just the usual suspects. You know, it's great. Rugby the World Cup hasn't been running as long as soccer or even as long as Rugby League. Rugby League has been running for, I think, since 1974 or maybe earlier. So, you know, Rugby Union's got a way to go. Here we go. Vilipola, Marco, Eddie gave us the idea. We wanted to be respectful, but we wanted to also make sure they understood that we were ready for the fight. Absolutely. Joe, so he's already said what oh yeah, so blah blah. We knew it would rile them up. It probably felt like we disrespected them. We meant no offense by it. We just wanted to let them know that we were ready for the challenge. Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, nobody goes there to disrespect. But if you're going to stand in a line and you perform a ritual that is a war, what was it? A war ritual, a war dance to say, you know, we are ready for battle. We are ready for you. And yet the other team's just supposed to stand there like cold fish. It's, you know, it's not on. they also, and they let us know in the first couple of contacts, it was ferocious contest, which is what you expect. I'm very proud and happy for the boys. Billy, his brother, it was just about trying to shock them. We talked about it all week. Marco said it, everybody said it. We wanted to shock them with our first 20 minutes because that's when they begin their process of wearing teams down. We didn't want to be one of those teams. The haka is a challenge, and we wanted them to know that we accepted and respected the challenge, but also that we didn't want to just take it. That was the thought behind it. Absolutely. You know, I mean, just listen to that. They wanted to respect it and accepted the challenge. But they also wanted to say, you know, we are challenging you. We're gonna give you a match that you will never forget. And that's what they did. Tom Curry, England flanker. We just wanted to come out at them early doors. That's the first bit of the game. So it's about trying to set a standard early. They can't score tries off the haka. It worked, so we're happy. I kind of felt it made them more up for it. As soon as we started moving towards them, they seemed to accept the challenge. I thought it was good. We went in there knowing we weren't going to take a backward step. Exactly. We wanted to show that from the onset. We wanted to show that from the offset. That's the first moment you get in front of them, so that it was important to show we weren't taking a backward step. Great player, he's showing himself to be excellent. And yeah, so yeah, here we go. Let's read a few of these sort of someone from Joe Berg. The purpose of the haka, I was going to try and do a South African accent, is to intimidate your opponent. The AB have been happy to do that for decades. That's the All Blacks. So it is laughable that they should get offended because their opposing team doesn't buy it and hits back with their own invention. A bunch of Morris dancers would not exactly have the same effect, would it? Oh, God. Grown men, most of whom aren't even of tribal descent. I think that's nonsense. A lot of them have got Maori blood in them. Yeah, there's quite a few of Irish descent and Scottish descent and English. Bobbing around and dancing while sticking their tongues out is pretty hilarious to watch. Fine, that's your opinion. So I think it should definitely continue just for that. It kind of works when they are winning, but when they then get smashed out of the park, it becomes laughable. Each to their own, but you can't really expect the rest of the developed world to take it at all seriously. Surely it's only a game. This is playground stuff. Whatever. So as you can see, this wanker has got and I'll add my one to it as well, because that was a load of shite. Let's have a look. So it's okay for them to have a ritual, but not any other team. Okay for them to shout and slap their legs, but not for us to stand in a V shape. Rubbish. Totally agreed. Let me just click on that. Haka, more like haha. What an embarrassment. Okay. A fine does not go far enough. This offensive act was an insult to New Zealand traditions and shamed the whole of England. Yeah, what a complete, total bollocks. We do not want teams that think this sort of thing is acceptable in the World Up finals. The Kiwis deserve their place in the finals. So as you can see, they've got 27 people disagree, and I just want to add my one as well. There you go. Total complete bollocks. It was a good response to the haka, but what would the rugby authorities do if these teams that do the haka are accused of attempted intimidation and threatening behaviour? That is, after all, what the haka is based on. It's there to intimidate you. They can say whatever they like. Oh, it's to do with my culture, but it is to do with. But its prime aim is, you know, done to intimidate the opposition. Plain and simple. I'm by no means an England fan. Oh, from Belfast. Anything, but I thought it was fantastic how they responded to the haka. I don't see why New Zealand should be allowed to perform this every game without teams responding. Absolutely. New Zealand used this party piece as gamesmanship every single game. I don't see how England can be fined for walking into half of a pitch before a game even started. Anyway, if they get a fine, it will be worth it, as England caught them out at their own game. But you see, the thing is, exactly, that is absolutely right. You know, it seems that the world, you know, RFU seems to be completely backing of New Zealand. They might decide, oh, we've got to do the rematch again or something like that. Oh, England will be fined out of the Rugby World Cup, and, you know, as punishment, and give them, you know, make South Africa the, you know, it's just bollocks. Honest to God, this is just a joke. Just a joke. Someone says here, ridiculous. Oh, let me just, I'll just tick on that, because I like to give them my response. Ridiculous. The whole thing is pathetic. If I were on the opposite team, I'd just turn around and take my position for the start of the game. Absolutely. 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 V stands for victory. Just goes to show that these people have cesspits for mind. For minds. Right, okay. So, yeah, I think nothing should be done about it. I mean, if the World Rugby wants to respond, it should just respond and say, look, whatever they decide to respond, just basically, if they themselves don't necessarily prove, they do understand the reason why England done it, and they're entitled to their response, and they should just keep out of it, really. I mean, obviously you don't want a situation that occurred many years ago where players did get face to face and the fight looked like it was going to ensue. So that I can understand why they put that, you know, draw the line in the sand, don't go beyond this. But still, teams need to be able to respond to that, or you stop the haka completely, and the All Blacks just get on with their game like everybody else. So, as the devil is the one that's laughing the hardest on this evil bastard planet, just be careful. Anyway, gotta go. That's a phone call for me. Good day.